Let me tell you guys about BellyUpSports. BellyUpSports is the internet sports bar. Go ahead and check out their website, www.bellyupsports.com, to read some great articles from great writers all across the country, from hockey, baseball, golf, soccer, you name it. BellyUpSports is the premier, not your average website. Liga MX playoffs, it's also one of my favorite tournaments. Liga MX is a very entertaining league. People say it's kind of died down, but I kind of disagree. I think it's still a pretty fun league to watch. I think the passion from the fans, I know that can be taken however you want to take it at that point, but it's still a very enjoyable tournament, and I have a lot of fun watching it. But all right, so the rounds, how it's done, you have the top 6 teams that qualify automatically into the quarterfinals, and then the teams placed from 7th to 10th play in a play-in round, kind of copying the NBA, if you will. At this point, I've said all that I can say. This is now the third time that we're seeing this feature in the Liga MX playoffs. But the teams that are already qualified are first place Cruz Azul, second place Toluca, third place Tigres, fourth place Pumas, fifth place Monterrey, and sixth place Atlético San Luis, who has been quite the story this year in Liga MX. So those are the teams that qualified automatically. Now the play-in round, which is to play for the 7th and 8th seed in the quarterfinals. So the teams that are qualified for the play-in round is 7th place Tijuana, 8th place Club America, 9th place Chivas de Guadalajara, and 10th place Atlas. So in the play-in round, they have the 7th and 8th seed play against each other. The winner of that round gets the 7th seed, and then the 10th and 9th seed play in a play together to see who they face against the loser of that first match that I mentioned, to decide who gets the 8th seed. So I've said plenty enough already as it is. Like I don't necessarily like this format. I think it sucks, but we'll at this point it is what it is. But yeah, so the play-in round, we had AFC Club America beat Tijuana, 7th seed Tijuana 2-2, and went because it drew 2-2, went to pens, and Tijuana ends up losing pens 3-2. America is gonna once again are just built for these kind of moments, and I guess not the best season for Club America, but I think nonetheless, when you talk about playoffs, you feel like any team in that realm can be in discussion. But yeah, so they secured the 7th seed in the quarterfinals. So Atlas, the 10th seed, actually defeated inner city rival Chivas de Guadalajara 2-1. So, like I said, one of the rare, it's a rivalry game. So I think that was the interesting part of it all, seeing the rivalry game being played, and I think it was really cool. It was fun. People forget about the Chivas and Atlas rivalry, but it was a pretty good showing. I enjoyed it. So, like I said, the battle for the 8th seed matchup came down to 7th seed Tijuana and 10th place Atlas, which Tijuana showed why they're a higher seed as they defeated Atlas 3-0. Wasn't close. Game was pretty much over by the first half. But now they secured the 8th seed, which could be an interesting position, and I'll talk about that when we get there. But here we are in the quarterfinals. So the first matchup is first place Cruz Azul taking on 7th seed Tijuana. I think Cruz Azul, I think, has been very good this year, and obviously good year for them to make it to finish in first place. But that is not a guarantee in this kind of tournament. Just because you're the best team doesn't mean that you're going to, win the whole thing. It's happened plenty of times in this tournament, and I'm sure it's not going to change anytime soon. But before we start making predictions here, I just want to see the statistics as far as how everything went. The leading goal scorer this year was from João Paulo Diaz of Toluca, who scored 13 goals. The best offensive team this year was Cruz Azul. The best defensive team was Cruz Azul, and the fair play team was Atlético San Luis. So yes, Cruz Azul is downright the best team this year. Best defense, best attack. So all around, probably the most balanced team going into this tournament, and respectively so because they're the first seed, taking on Tijuana, who have now played 2 games. So now they're going into this. And if you guys aren't familiar with Liga MX, they do 2-leg matches from the quarterfinals all the way to the final. So the final is also a 2-leg match. Um, if I were to make some changes, I would, one, get rid of this playing round, but secondly, I would make the final an outright final, just a 1-game playoff. But and the only reason why I say that is because sometimes that first leg, it is. If you guys remember when Toluca played Pachuca, it was nowhere near close that Toluca could somehow find a way to come back against Pachuca. Pachuca just outright had the lead and never looked back. So I would think a one-off game could be a more fair version. But anyways, Tijuana having to take Cruz Azul. I think they've, one, they're going in already with tired legs because they've already played 2 matches in a short span of time. And they're going to play more games in an even shorter span of time. So it is not necessarily looking favorable for Tijuana, especially because you played on Sunday and now Wednesday you're playing another game. So it is definitely going to be daunting for Tijuana, and having to go up against, in my opinion, the best team this year in Cruz Azul. It's not easy. So I'm picking Cruz Azul outright. I think once again, best defense and best attack. This team is balanced. This team is going to be a problem. And unfortunately, 7 seed Tijuana is the team that has to face them, even though they were higher than the AFC Club America. Would have been actually a fun matchup for Cruz Azul and America to play together, because obviously it's another inter-city rivalry. But the playing round is the playing round, so that's where we are. So I'm picking Cruz Azul to beat Tijuana. The next matchup is 2nd seed Toluca taking on AFC Club America, who is now the 7th seed. Just stay with me here. Toluca it's weird. Toluca's always all right. Toluca has looked good in the regular season, and I think they've taken a lot of strides to keep making this team better. Like, they're not the same team, that that got this completely embarrassed in the final a couple years ago. But I don't know, man. Toluca just is one of those teams that, like, you would argue is just not good enough to win the whole thing. Like, they clearly keep improving. They have the leading goal scorer in the competition. Like I said, they have good pieces, and I mean, Alexi Vega has honestly has done quite the turnaround for himself since coming back to Toluca after all things that went down with Chivas de Guadalajara. But then you're going against Club America, a team that, once again, when you see them in this tournament, they're a problem, just in general. The most successful team in this competition, just in general, are just the best team in history of this tournament. And while I would like to see, like, even though I don't necessarily have like an affiliation to a Liga MX team, I mean, if probably a lot of my friends that know me from middle school know that I did rock with Toluca, and it was mainly because of Jose Cardoso, Vicente Sanchez, Paulo da Silva, Hernan Cristante. That team was the team I grew up watching. Because, for me growing up, I didn't have like the Premier League, or wasn't necessarily as accessible. MLS was kind of weird to like really get like us to be able to watch it, but I had Univision, and so I was able to watch Liga MX games, and watching Jose Cardozo and Vicente Sanchez and Paulo da Silva and Sinya, and it was a fun team to watch, so I always rooted for Toluca. I don't consider myself a Toluca fan, only because, one, I don't really keep up with the team very well. Obviously because me being a Madridista and all that, but like it's just not a team that I necessarily try to follow very well. And like, honestly, I enjoy watching Liga MX games in general, so I didn't want to like necessarily keep me in a bubble, but I do have a true soft spot for Toluca, and I want to see them do well, because they're actually the 3rd most successful team in Liga MX. Because I mean, like I said, that whole Cardozo era was just pinnacle for Toluca. But like, and I just don't know if they like. I'm sure they are clearly a good team, but once again, it's one of those things that just like when it comes down to it, can they come up in the big moments? And this is I would argue, a big moment. I think if you're Toluca, you would have hoped for Tijuana. And no, you got to go up against Globe America. But I want to pick Toluca. I do. I honestly do want to pick them. Like I said, I have a soft spot for this team, but there's just something about Club America. Like that first leg is going to be in Azteca, so or is it in Azteca? I don't know. I know they said that there's some like modifications going on in Azteca, so I don't know if they're gonna play in Azteca. But like, if Toluca can make a statement in that first leg and then go to their home stadium in Toluca and continue on, I think Toluca could be a very dangerous team in this tournament. But once again, it's just that what if, like, but like it's no, it's not even the what if, it's the but like I'm not entirely sure if this team is good enough to get to that next part, if that makes any sense to anyone. But yeah, I'm a, you know what, my heart says Toluca, but my brain says Club America, and that's what I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna take Club America to move on to the next round. The next matchup is third place Tigres taking on sixth place Atlético San Luis, the fair play team of the tournament of the season. Um, Similar to Club America, man, when it comes to playoff time, Tigres is just a different team. And I think that that's something that you need to consider. They're just meant for these moments, Same thing like Club America. They're just meant for these moments. Atletico San Luis has a great story. A team that kind of has been an afterthought for quite some time in Liga MX, and then, they have the season they have now, and I think I think a lot of people, if you don't have a team, you're gonna pull for Atletico San Luis just because of they're not your typical Liga MX team, and I think that that's something to point out. But I'm taking Tigres. I think Tigres, once again, they're just a team that goes far in this tournament. They just do. Whether it's the final or the semifinal, they go the distance in this tournament. So that's why I'm picking Tigres to move on to the semifinals. And then the final one is Pumas taking on Monterrey, two historical teams. But I think when it comes down to it, man, Monterrey, I'm picking pedigree right now. I'm literally that's really what I'm doing right now. I mean, Cruz doesn't really have pedigree, but they are the quote unquote best team. But I'm gonna go with Monterrey here. I think Monterrey, to have that first game in Rayados, in the Rayados Stadium, is gonna be really big for them. That home crowd is a beast, and so I think Monterrey can get a strong first leg performance, and hope that and I believe that will be more than enough to go to Mexico City where Pumas is, and at least either get a draw or just keep the score low enough that it still helps Monterrey's case to move on to the next round. So that is my predictions. Once the quarterfinals are done, I'll do more in depth, discuss, coverage of the matches, because right now there's no games to really talk about. But I mean, obviously the playing games, but I just don't really want to get in depth with that. But guys, if you guys don't watch Liga MX playoffs, I recommend you watch it. It is a fun tournament. It is very exciting. There is a lot of scoring. I will tell you that. I think maybe not the best defensively, but it is a really fun scoring league. So go check it out. It's a great tournament. But